I want to move to progressive prosecutors, and we keep talking about Loudoun County, but it is just rich with content. Buddha Biberaj is a very, very progressive prosecutor. She's one of these Soros-funded people that we've seen people try to get removed from office and things like that. She was just removed and disqualified from a criminal case for apparently lying to the court. Her entire office were removed and disqualified. She's done other things, and I want to just get this right. After the sexual assault issue in Loudoun County, she placed that student in another school, and then that student ended up sexually assaulting someone else at that other school. That's probably the most infamous thing she's done. She's done a lot of other things, not gone after prosecutions. You said that, quote, she cares more about criminals than communities. Prosecutors like this exist all across the country. And I just want you to comment on how taking that style of prosecution or non-prosecution affects the communities that they're supposed to represent.
Well, I mean, I think it's an example of kind of the criminal first, victim last mindset. I was a prosecutor in Virginia Beach before I was in elective office. And so the way our system works is the defendants have already a defense attorney. They don't need a second one. Your job is to serve as a prosecutor and make sure that we are keeping in mind both the victims and making sure our streets are safe. When you go in the mindset that the real victims are the defendants, then you can see where we have this justice through this distorted lens. And social justice is that term, what they're really masking is distorted justice. Because the one word you never hear them talk about are victims. Ever. They leave them out of the equation. And you see time after time again, you've seen it in Fairfax and other areas around the country where victims are never consulted, victims are never talked about. In the case you specifically talked about, your number one currency in court, when you're an officer of the court, whether you're on the prosecution or defense, civil or criminal, is the truth. And you are expected, when I was a prosecutor, you are always expected to always be completely upright and forthright. Now, I wasn't in the courtroom, but Judge Plowman obviously made the decision. He felt that she had misled the court. He made this decision, and we obviously offered our office to step in. I think the Commonwealth's attorney in Fauquier is handling that case now. But you are seeing that over and over again all around the country. And what's so amazing about this is you really are. Somebody said the other day that a lot of these far left social justice policies, this person said, is an example in his mind of white privilege. Because the people that suffer the consequences are not those that are living in gated communities and not dealing with the consequences of the early release of violent offenders and the catch and release program and letting people that get arrested make bond. And so that's why when you saw in California with the recall of the DA in California and San Francisco, most liberal city in the country, the only areas, if you look at by precinct background, where they supported keeping him in power were the very wealthy, overwhelmingly white liberal enclaves in San Francisco. The precincts where they overwhelmingly supported his recall were heavily Latino precincts. And a large percentage of Asian Americans as well wanted him gone. And so you're seeing a great disconnect between people that support policies that they never have to deal with the consequences of versus people in communities that are seeing it. I just did a violent crime town hall in Portsmouth with the acting chief of police and the sheriff, and talking to the citizens there that were complaining and saying, we want more police. Why is it that we're driving in our streets and our communities and seeing a group of kids outside that are getting high and prostituting themselves, and there's no police? We'll call for the police don't show up. And so that was the thing that was, I've seen and heard is this whole defund the police movement. It is not supported by people that live in communities. It's supported by a lot of individuals that will never deal with the consequences of irresponsible policies and irresponsible rhetoric. So back to your point about the progressive prosecutors. It's a huge problem. It's why I'm the chairman of a national group called Protecting Americans Action Fund, which the goal is to get elected common sense prosecutors that actually believe in following the rule of law and actually putting violent criminals, get them off our streets. And I think you're seeing a big pushback. San Francisco is just the start of, I think it's going to be a domino of pushback from voters.